Chapter 1. The Enigmatic Invitation. The fog hung low over London, curling like a serpent around the gas lamps that flickered along Baker Street. In his modest yet impeccably tidy flat, Hercule Poirot sat in an armchair, a delicate porcelain teacup balanced in his hand. The fire crackled softly, casting shadows that danced across the walls, adorned with framed certificates and mementos of past triumphs. His moustache, meticulously groomed, twitched as he read a letter that had arrived with the morning post. The envelope bore an unfamiliar crest, a scarab beetle encircled by hieroglyphs, and the paper within carried the faint scent of sandalwood. "Monsieur Poirot," the letter began in a bold, hurried script, "your reputation as a man of unparalleled intellect precedes you. I am Sir Reginald Harrington, and I write to request your presence in Egypt for an expedition of monumental importance. We have uncovered the tomb of Pharaoh Amenhotep IV in the Valley of the Kings, a discovery that promises to rewrite history. Yet, I fear a shadow looms over our endeavour, a curse, some whisper, tied to the Pharaoh's vengeance. Your expertise is needed, not only to witness history, but to safeguard it. Join us in Cairo at the Hotel Nile Splendor by the 15th. Discretion is paramount. Yours, Harrington." Poirot set the letter down, his grey eyes gleaming with curiosity. "Mon Dieu, a curse!" he murmured, his Belgian accent softening the words. "The English, they are so fond of their mysteries wrapped in the exotic." He tapped a manicured finger against his temple, where his little grey cells were already stirring. Egypt, with its ancient sands and whispered legends, was a stage unlike any other. A tomb, a curse, and a call for his genius. How could Hercule Poirot resist? He rose, adjusting his waistcoat, and summoned his loyal valet George, who appeared with the silent efficiency of a well-oiled machine. "George, prepare my trunk for travel. I depart for Cairo tomorrow. The climate, it will be warm, no? Ensure my lightest suits are packed, but nothing less than impeccable." "Very good, sir," George replied, accustomed to Poirot's sartorial demands. "Shall I arrange passage on the Orient Express to connect with the steamer?" "Oui, and swiftly. Time, it is a thief in matters of mystery." By the next evening, Poirot was aboard a steamer cutting through the Mediterranean's sapphire waves. The journey gave him time to reflect. Sir Reginald Harrington was no stranger. Poirot recalled meeting the baronet at a London gala years ago, a man of wealth and ambition with a penchant for archaeology. But the letter's tone, urgent, almost pleading, suggested something more than scholarly excitement. A curse, real or imagined, could unsettle even the stoutest heart, and Poirot suspected human nature, not supernatural wrath, lay at the heart of this summons. Cairo greeted him with a cacophony of sights and sounds. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine and dust, and the Nile glimmered under a relentless sun. At the Hotel Nile Splendor, a grand edifice of colonial elegance, Poirot was ushered into a marble-floored lobby, where ceiling fans stirred the humid air. A porter led him to a private salon, where Sir Reginald awaited, a tall man with a sunburnt face and eyes shadowed by fatigue. "Monsieur Poirot, you've come!" Harrington exclaimed, shaking his hand vigorously. "I feared you might dismiss my letter as the ravings of a fanciful mind." "Non, non, Sir Reginald," Poirot replied, his voice smooth as velvet. "Hercule Poirot does not dismiss. He observes, he listens, he deduces. Tell me of this tomb and its curse." Harrington gestured to a group seated around a table, laden with maps and artifacts. "Allow me to introduce the expedition team. Dr. Evelyn Marsh, our lead archaeologist, whose expertise unearthed the tomb." A woman in her 40s, with sharp features and a no-nonsense air, nodded curtly. Mr. Charles Langley, our financier, whose generosity funds our work." A portly man with a gold watch chain flashed a tight smile. Miss Clara Wentworth, heiress and patron, with a passion for Egyptology. A young woman with auburn hair and a defiant gaze inclined her head. And Mr. Ahmed Khalil, our local guide, indispensable to navigating the desert. A lean man with piercing eyes offered a respectful bow. Poirot's gaze swept over them, noting the undercurrents of tension. Dr. Marsh's hands fidgeted with a pencil. Langley's smile didn't reach his eyes. Clara's posture suggested defiance, and Khalil's silence carried weight. "Enchanté," Poirot said, bowing slightly. "Now, Sir Reginald, this curse, what is its nature?" Harrington hesitated, glancing at his companions. "The workers speak of it in hushed tones. The tomb's entrance bore a warning. Death shall come on swift wings to those who disturb the Pharaoh's rest. 2 labourers fell ill after we breached the outer chamber. And there are whispers of strange noises at night." Dr. Marsh scoffed. "Superstition! The illnesses are likely from poor sanitation, not some ancient hex." "Perhaps," Langley interjected, his voice oily. "But the locals are restless. It affects progress." Clara's eyes flashed. "We're here for history, not ghost stories. Let's focus on the treasure." Khalil spoke softly, his voice like a desert breeze. "The old gods do not forget, Miss Wentworth. Egypt's past is not so easily dismissed." Poirot's moustache twitched. "Messieurs et mesdames, whether curse or coincidence, Hercule Poirot shall uncover the truth. But first, I must see this tomb. Arrange for my visit to the Valley of the Kings tomorrow." As the meeting adjourned, Poirot lingered, observing. Clara whispered sharply to Langley, who brushed her off. Dr. Marsh studied a hieroglyph sketch with intense focus, while Khalil's gaze lingered on Newt, the group unreadable. Harrington, mopping his brow, seemed a man carrying a heavier burden than he admitted. That night in his opulent hotel suite, Poirot sat with a glass of tisane, the Nile's reflection shimmering through the window. The scarab crest on the letter, the team's strained dynamics, the whisper of a curse, it was a puzzle, and Poirot delighted in puzzles. The human heart, he mused, is more treacherous than any pharaoh's trap. Allons-y, let us see what secrets the sands conceal. He retired to bed, unaware that the first threads of a deadly web were already tightening around the expedition, waiting to ensnare its next victim. Chapter 2. Shadows over the Sands. The sun blazed mercilessly over the Valley of the Kings, its rays scorching the barren cliffs and casting jagged shadows across the sands. Hercule Poirot, impeccably dressed despite the heat in a lightweight linen suit, adjusted his hat as he stepped from the expedition's dusty lorry. The air shimmered, heavy with the scent of dry earth and ancient stone. Around him, the dig site buzzed with activity. Workers wielding picks, archaeologists shouting directions, and donkeys braying under their loads. Yet, beneath the bustle, a palpable unease hung like a mirage. Sir Reginald Harrington led Poirot toward the excavation, his face flushed from more than the sun. "Here we are, Monsieur Poirot," he said, gesturing to a narrow trench descending into the earth. "The tomb of Amenhotep IV lies below, untouched for millennia, until now." Poirot's grey eyes scanned the scene, noting every detail. The workers' furtive glances, the pile of displaced tools, the taut ropes securing the camp's tents against sudden desert winds. "Magnifique," he murmured, though his tone suggested he was cataloguing more than the scenery. "Tell me, Sir Reginald, who oversees the workers?" "Dr. Marsh manages the dig, with Khalil coordinating the locals," Harrington replied. They're a superstitious lot, mind you. Talk of the curse has them on edge. As if on cue, a young worker, his face streaked with sweat, approached Khalil, speaking rapidly in Arabic. Poirot, fluent in many tongues, caught fragments. Shadows moving, tools not where we left them. Khalil's expression remained impassive, but he dismissed the man with a curt nod. "Interessant," Poirot said, his moustache twitching. "The tools, they wander, or perhaps someone helps them along." Harrington laughed nervously. "Just the wind, I'm sure. Come, let's meet the team at the site." Near the trench, Dr. Evelyn Marsh stood with a clipboard, barking orders to a group of workers sifting sand. Her sharp eyes flicked to Poirot, assessing him. "Monsieur Poirot, I hope you're not here to indulge this cursed nonsense. We've a scientific mission, not a séance." "Madam, Hercule Poirot indulges only the truth," he replied smoothly. "But I observe all possibilities. Tell me your team. Do they work in harmony?" Dr. Marsh's lips tightened. "Well enough. Langley's more interested in profits than artifacts, and Clara's romantic notions of Egypt get in the way. But we manage." At that moment, Clara Wentworth emerged from a tent, her auburn hair catching the sunlight. She carried a sketchbook, her fingers smudged with charcoal. "Monsieur Poirot," she called, her voice bright but strained. "Isn't it thrilling? We're standing on history." "History, mademoiselle, is often a mirror to the present," Poirot said, noting her quick glance toward Charles Langley, who was inspecting a crate of supplies with a scowl. The financier's gold watch glinted as he waved off a worker, his impatience evident. Khalil approached, his dark eyes unreadable. "The men are restless, Sir Reginald. Last night they heard whispers from the trench. Some refused to enter." "Whispers?" Langley scoffed, joining them. "More likely the wind through the rocks. This curse talk is bad for business." Poirot tilted his head. "And yet, monsieur, you fund this venture. Do you not fear the Pharaoh's wrath?" Langley's smile was thin. "I fear delays and cost overruns. The sooner we catalogue the tomb's contents, the sooner we profit." As the group descended into the trench, the air grew cooler, tinged with the musty scent of ancient stone. Torches lit the narrow passage, revealing hieroglyphs etched into the walls, scenes of a pharaoh betrayed, his enemies struck down by divine wrath. Poirot paused, studying the carvings. This Amenhotep IV, he was not loved, non. A ruler who defied tradition, perhaps inviting vengeance. Dr. Marsh nodded grudgingly. He was a heretic king, worshipping a single god, Aten. His court turned against him. The hieroglyphs suggest a bitter end. Betrayal, Poirot mused. It is a motive as old as time. The day wore on, and Poirot observed the team's dynamics. Clara sketched artifacts with fervour, but her exchanges with Langley were curt, hinting at a shared history. Dr. Marsh clashed with Khalil over excavation methods, her academic rigour at odds with his respect for local customs. Harrington, meanwhile, seemed distracted, his gaze darting to the horizon as if expecting trouble. As dusk fell, the camp settled into an uneasy quiet. Poirot joined the team for dinner under a canvas canopy, the Nile's distant murmur mingling with the clink of cutlery. The conversation turned to the tomb's treasures, golden amulets, alabaster statues, but Poirot's attention was elsewhere. A worker's shovel lay abandoned near a tent, its handle freshly splintered. A coil of rope, neatly tied that morning, was now tangled. "Curieux," Poirot muttered, excusing himself to stroll the camp's perimeter. The stars blazed overhead, but the shadows seemed to shift unnaturally. He paused by the trench, where a faint sound, like a whisper, drifted from below. Not wind, he decided, but something deliberate. A footstep? A signal? Returning to the camp, he found Khalil alone, sharpening a knife with methodical precision. "Monsieur Khalil," Poirot said, "you know these sands well. Tell me, do they hide more than tombs?" Khalil's eyes met his, steady and guarded. "The desert keeps its secrets, Monsieur Poirot, but not all are ancient." Before Poirot could press further, a cry pierced the night. Workers scrambled toward the trench, shouting in Arabic. Harrington rushed out, his face pale. "One of the men! He's collapsed, near the tomb entrance!" Poirot followed swiftly, his mind racing. The worker lay convulsing, his lips tinged blue, a strange powder dusting his hands. Dr. Marsh knelt beside him, her face grim. "Poison, perhaps," she muttered, "but from what?" Clara clutched her sketchbook, her eyes wide. "The curse! It's real, isn't it?" Langley snorted, but his hands trembled. "Nonsense! Probably ate something bad." Poirot knelt, examining the powder with a handkerchief. "No, monsieur, this is no accident. The little grey cells. They tell me something is afoot." He rose, his gaze sweeping the gathered faces, fearful, defensive, calculating. "The Pharaoh's vengeance, or a human hand. Hercule Poirot shall find out." As the worker was carried away, the camp descended into whispers, not unlike those from the tomb. Poirot stood alone, the desert's vast silence pressing in. The puzzle was deepening, and he sensed the shadows over the sands were cast not by spirits, but by the living. Chapter 3. The Tomb's Awakening. The dawn broke over the Valley of the Kings with a golden haze, but the air in the expedition camp was thick with dread. Hercule Poirot stood at the edge of the trench leading to the tomb of Pharaoh Amenhotep IV, his eyes tracing the jagged cliffs that loomed like silent sentinels. The workers' collapse the previous night had sent ripples of fear through the camp, and whispers of the Pharaoh's curse now drowned out the clatter of picks and shovels. Poirot, however, remained unmoved by superstition, his mind fixed on the tangible, motives, means, and the subtle cues of human behaviour. Sir Reginald Harrington approached, his face haggard. "Monsieur Poirot, the men are refusing to work. They say the tomb is cursed, and after last night, I'm half inclined to believe them." "No, no, Sir Reginald," Poirot said, his voice calm but firm. "A curse is but a story until proven otherwise. Let us enter this tomb and see what truths it holds." The team gathered at the trench's mouth, their faces a mix of excitement and apprehension. Dr. Evelyn Marsh clutched her notebook, her eyes alight with scholarly zeal despite the tension. Clara Wentworth, her auburn hair tied back, hovered near Charles Langley, whose forced nonchalance betrayed a nervous tic in his jaw. Ahmed Khalil stood apart, his gaze fixed on the tomb's entrance, where hieroglyphs warned of divine retribution. The passage into the tomb was narrow, the air cool and heavy with the scent of ancient dust. Torches cast flickering shadows on walls adorned with vivid reliefs. A pharaoh offering to a radiant sun disk, priests bowing, and enemies struck down by unseen forces. Poirot paused, studying the carvings. This Amenhotep IV, he was a man of vision, but visionaries make enemies. Dr. Marsh nodded, her voice crisp. He rejected the old gods for Aten, a single deity. His reforms alienated the priesthood and court. These hieroglyphs tell of betrayal. His own vizier turned against him. Betrayal, Poirot mused, his moustache twitching. It is a thread that weaves through time, is it not? The team reached the outer chamber, a cavernous space filled with treasures. Golden amulets, alabaster jars, and a sarcophagus sealed with intricate locks. Clara gasped, sketching furiously, while Langley's eyes gleamed with avarice. "This will make us all rich," he muttered, brushing past a worker unloading tools. Khalil pointed to a wall inscribed with a stark warning: "Death to those who defile the eternal rest of the Aten's chosen." His voice was low. "The workers believe it. They say the Pharaoh's spirit guards this place." Langley scoffed. "Ghosts don't poison people, Khalil. That worker probably mishandled some artifact." Poirot knelt beside a pile of pottery shards, his gloved hand lifting a fragment dusted with a faint powder. "Curieux, this powder. It resembles that found on the fallen worker. Dr. Marsh, have you catalogued such substances?" She frowned, consulting her notes. "Not yet. It could be residue from decayed offerings or something brought in. We'll test it." As the team worked, cataloguing artifacts under Dr. Marsh's direction, Poirot observed their interactions. Clara's enthusiasm clashed with Langley's impatience, and Harrington seemed distracted, checking his watch repeatedly. Khalil moved silently, his eyes catching every detail, including Poirot's scrutiny. Midday brought a commotion. A worker, a young man named Mustafa, stumbled into the chamber, his face ashen. "I'm sick, like the others," he gasped, clutching his stomach before collapsing. The team froze, and Clara stifled a cry. Dr. Marsh rushed to him, checking his pulse. "He's feverish, delirious. We need to get him to the camp doctor." Poirot examined Mustafa's hands, noting the same bluish tinge as the previous victim. "Mon Dieu, this is no coincidence. The powder, it is a clue. But is it ancient or placed here by a modern hand?" Panic spread like wildfire. Workers abandoned their posts, muttering prayers, and even Langley's bravado faltered. "This is getting out of hand," he snapped. "Harrington, you said this was a safe investment." Harrington mopped his brow. "It was until these incidents. Monsieur Poirot, what do you make of it?" Poirot's eyes narrowed. "I make nothing yet, monsieur, but I observe. The tomb, it speaks, but not of curses, of secrets and perhaps of greed." That evening, as the team gathered in the camp's mess tent, the mood was somber. Mustafa had been stabilized, but fear lingered. Poirot requested Dr. Marsh's translations of the tomb's texts, hoping to uncover more about Amenhotep's history. She handed him a notebook filled with meticulous notes. The pharaoh's vizier, one Horemheb, orchestrated his downfall, she explained. The texts describe a ritual to curse betrayers, binding their souls to eternal torment. "Interessant," Poirot said, flipping through the pages. "A ritual of vengeance, and yet it is the living who concern me now." Clara, overhearing, shivered. "Do you think someone's using the curse as a cover? To scare us off?" Poirot smiled faintly. "Mademoiselle, the human mind is more inventive than any ancient spell. But fear not. Hercule Poirot sees through such disguises." As night fell, the camp grew quiet, save for the distant howl of a jackal. Poirot sat in his tent, studying Dr. Marsh's notes by lamplight. The parallels were striking. A betrayed pharaoh, a cursed tomb, and now a team rife with hidden tensions. Langley's obsession with profit, Clara's guarded glances, Harrington's anxiety, Khalil's cryptic warnings. Each was a piece of the puzzle. A sudden noise interrupted his thoughts. A soft scrape, like stone on stone, from the direction of the tomb. Poirot slipped on his coat and stepped into the cool night, his senses alert. The trench was deserted, but a faint glow flickered within. He descended silently, torch in hand, and found a single lantern left burning near the chamber entrance. Beside it lay a broken amulet, its scarab design matching the crest on Harrington's letter. "Tiens," Poirot whispered, The tomb awakens, but not by the hand of a pharaoh. He pocketed the amulet, his mind racing. The powder, the illnesses, the misplaced tools. Someone was orchestrating fear, perhaps to halt the dig or to conceal a darker purpose. As he returned to his tent, the desert's vast silence seemed to pulse with secrets, and Poirot knew the true awakening of Amenhotep's tomb was only beginning. Chapter 4. The First Strike of Vengeance. The morning sun cast long shadows over the Valley of the Kings, but the expedition camp was shrouded in a chill that had little to do with the weather. Hercule Poirot stood near the tomb's entrance, his keen eyes scanning the chaotic scene before him. The air buzzed with shouts and the frantic footsteps of workers, their faces pale with fear. At the centre of the commotion lay Dr. Evelyn Marsh, the lead archaeologist, sprawled lifelessly on the stone floor of the tomb's outer chamber. Her notebook, its pages smeared with dust, lay open beside her, and a faint bluish powder dusted her clenched hand. Poirot knelt, his gloved fingers carefully examining the scene. "Mon Dieu," he murmured, his moustache twitching. "The Pharaoh's vengeance, or a more earthly hand?" Sir Reginald Harrington stumbled forward, his face ashen. "Monsieur Poirot, it's horrific. Evelyn, Dr. Marsh, she was found at dawn by a worker, dead, just like that." Poirot's gaze flicked to the gathered team. Clara Wentworth clutched her sketchbook, her eyes wide with shock. Charles Langley stood rigid, his gold watch glinting as he fidgeted. Ahmed Khalil lingered at the chamber's edge, his expression unreadable, but his hands tightly clasped. The workers whispered in Arabic, their words a mix of fear and reverence for the curse. "Calmez-vous, mes amis," Poirot said, rising. "Panic serves no one. Tell me, who last saw Dr. Marsh alive?" Harrington mopped his brow. "We dined together last night. She was agitated, talking about the tomb's texts and that cursed ritual. She said she'd work late to catalogue artifacts." Clara's voice trembled. "I saw her at 10, heading to the tomb. She seemed preoccupied, but fine." Langley snorted. "Preoccupied? She was obsessed with that tomb. Probably inhaled some ancient poison." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Monsieur Langley, you dismiss the cause so quickly. Yet poison? It is precise, non? Let us examine the facts." He turned to the body, noting the rigidity of Dr. Marsh's limbs and the faint froth at her lips. The powder on her hand matched that found on the previous victims, but a small vial, half hidden under a shard of pottery, caught his eye. He lifted it carefully, sniffing its contents. Tiens, a bitter scent, perhaps cyanide, or something older, disguised as ancient. Khalil stepped forward, his voice low. "The texts speak of a poison used by the Pharaoh's priests, derived from desert plants. It mimics the wrath of Aten." Poirot nodded, pocketing the vial. "Merci, Monsieur Khalil. But priests do not walk among us now. Someone does." The team retreated to the camp, where Poirot began his interviews under the canvas canopy. The desert sun beat down, amplifying the tension. Harrington admitted to a heated argument with Dr. Marsh over excavation priorities, but insisted he retired early. Clara revealed Doctor. Marsh had confided in her about a discovery, a hidden chamber hinted at in the hieroglyphs, that she planned to explore alone. Langley claimed he was in his tent, reviewing accounts, but his evasive glances suggested otherwise. Khalil, reticent, said he patrolled the camp at night and saw nothing unusual. Poirot's little grey cells worked furiously. The vial, the powder, the timing, all pointed to deliberation. He paced the camp, reconstructing the night. Dr. Marsh's obsession with the tomb made her a target, but for what? Her knowledge of the hidden chamber? Or something more personal? He returned to the tomb, where workers had been ordered to stand back. The outer chamber was a treasure trove: golden scarabs, alabaster, vases, and a sealed sarcophagus. Poirot examined Dr. Marsh's notebook, its final entry scrawled in haste. Chamber behind sun disk. Key to attend secret. Must verify tonight. He studied the wall, finding a faint outline of a disc-shaped panel. A hidden chamber indeed. Interessant, he muttered. Dr. Marsh, you found something someone wished to keep buried. As he emerged, Clara approached, her face pale. Monsieur Poirot, do you think the curse got her, or is someone using it to scare us? Poirot's eyes softened. Mademoiselle, a curse is a story told to frighten, but murder, it is real. Tell me, did Dr. Marsh have enemies? Clara hesitated. She clashed with Langley over selling artifacts. He wanted quick profits. She wanted them preserved, and she didn't trust Harrington's motives. Poirot nodded, filing away the information. He summoned Langley, who arrived with a scowl. Monsieur Langley, you and Dr. Marsh disagreed on the artifact's fate, oui? Did you visit the tomb last night? Langley's face reddened. Absolutely not. I was in my tent, as I said. This is nonsense. Marsh probably mishandled some relic. Non, monsieur, Poirot said sharply. Her death was no accident. The poison, it was administered with intent. The camp descended into uneasy silence as the day wore on. Poirot requested a local physician to examine Dr. Marsh's body, though he suspected the poison source would be hard to trace. He gathered the team at dusk, his voice steady. Mes amis, a killer walks among us, cloaking their work in the shadow of a curse. Hercule Poirot will unmask them. But I require your candour. Who saw anything unusual last night? Khalil spoke softly. I saw a figure near the trench after midnight. Too dark to identify. They moved quickly. Harrington paled. Why didn't you say so earlier? Khalil's eyes were steady. I speak now, when it matters. Poirot's gaze swept the group, noting Clara's trembling hands, Langley's clenched jaw, and Harrington's nervous fidgeting. The desert night closed in, the stars cold and distant. He returned to his tent, the vial and notebook in his possession, his mind piecing together the puzzle. Dr. Marsh's death was the first strike, but not the last. The tomb's secrets, its treasures, its hidden chamber, its curse, were intertwined with human greed and betrayal. As he sat by lamplight, a faint sound reached him. A low, rhythmic chant from the workers' camp, invoking protection from ancient gods. Poirot smiled grimly. The gods may watch, but it is Hercule Poirot who sees. Chapter 5. Whispers from the Past. The desert night was heavy with silence, broken only by the distant crackle of the camp's fire and the faint rustle of palm fronds in the breeze. Hercule Poirot sat in his tent, a single lamp casting a warm glow over Dr. Evelyn Marsh's notebook, its pages dense with translations of the tomb's hieroglyphs. The murder of the lead archaeologist had shaken the expedition, and the spectre of the Pharaoh's curse loomed larger, fueling fear among the workers. Yet Poirot's little grey cells were focused not on ancient spirits, but on the living, whose secrets were as tangled as the tomb's passages. He turned a page, his eyes narrowing at Dr. Marsh's final notes. Ritual of Aten's vengeance, poisoned offerings to trap betrayers, Vizier Horemheb's treachery, sealed Amenhotep's fate. The story of the Pharaoh's betrayal by his trusted adviser mirrored the tensions Poirot sensed among the team. Tiens, he murmured, history repeats, but in whose hands? A sharp cry shattered his thoughts. Poirot rose, slipping on his coat, and stepped into the cool night. The camp was in disarray. Workers and team members gathered near the supply tent. Sir Reginald Harrington, his face pale, shouted for order. "Monsieur Poirot," he called, spotting the detective. "It's Langley. He's been hurt." Poirot hurried forward. Finding Charles Langley slumped against a crate, clutching his arm. Blood seeped through his sleeve, and his gold watch dangled loosely, its face cracked. "A beam fell," Langley gasped, his voice tight with pain. "In the storage tent, nearly crushed me." Poirot's gaze swept the scene. A heavy wooden beam lay splintered nearby, ropes that had secured it frayed and loose. "Curieux," he said, kneeling to inspect the ropes. The cuts were clean, not frayed, sabotage, not accident. "Monsieur Langley, you are fortunate. This was no mere mishap." Clara Wentworth, her auburn hair dishevelled, hovered nearby, her eyes wide with concern. "Is he all right? First Evelyn, now this. It's the curse, isn't it?" "No, mademoiselle," Poirot said firmly. "A curse does not wield a knife to cut ropes. This is the work of a human hand." Ahmed Khalil appeared, his dark eyes scanning the crowd. "The worker saw nothing," he said quietly, "but they speak of shadows moving in the camp at night." Harrington mopped his brow. "Shadows, whispers, this is madness. We must halt the dig until we understand what's happening." Poirot's moustache twitched. "Halt the dig, monsieur. That may be precisely what our saboteur desires. No, we continue, but with vigilance." As Langley was tended by the camp doctor, Poirot gathered the team in the mess tent, the air thick with suspicion. He produced Doctor Marsh's notebook, holding it aloft. "Mes amis, docteur." Marsh uncovered a tale of betrayal in the tomb's texts. The Pharaoh's vizier poisoned his court to seize power. Does this not strike you as familiar? Clara's voice was soft. "You think someone's using the curse as a cover? To kill Evelyn and attack Charles?" Poirot nodded. "The poison that felled Dr. Marsh, the beam that struck Monsieur Langley, these are not the acts of a spirit. Someone among us weaves a modern vengeance." Langley, his arm bandaged, scoffed. "Nonsense! Marsh was careless, and my accident was just that, an accident. You're stirring panic, Poirot." "Monsieur, panic is the ally of the guilty," Poirot replied, his eyes sharp. "Tell me, what were you doing in the storage tent so late?" Langley hesitated, his jaw tightening. "Checking supplies. We're over budget, and I needed to ensure nothing was missing." Poirot turned to Khalil. "And you, monsieur? Your patrols? Did you see Monsieur Langley enter the tent?" Khalil's gaze was steady. "I saw a figure near the supplies, but the darkness hid their face. It was after midnight." Harrington interjected, his voice strained. "This is getting us nowhere. We need answers, not accusations." Poirot smiled faintly. "Answers, Sir Reginald, come from questions. Let us consider motives. Dr. Marsh's discovery of a hidden chamber. Perhaps it holds treasures someone wishes to claim alone. Or perhaps her death settles a personal score." Clara's hands trembled. Evelyn mentioned forged documents. She thought someone was tampering with the expedition's permits. She didn't trust Langley's investors. Langley's face reddened. "That's slander! My investors are legitimate. Marsh was paranoid, seeing conspiracies everywhere." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Paranoia, monsieur, or perception? We shall see." He excused himself, returning to the tomb under the guise of further inspection. The outer chamber was quiet, its treasures gleaming faintly in the torchlight. Poirot examined the sun disk panel doctor. Marsh had noted, tracing its edges. A faint click suggested a mechanism, but it remained locked. Nearby, he found a scrap of paper tucked beneath a vase, its handwriting hurried. "Meet me at midnight, storage." CL, Charles Langley, Poirot mused. "Or another, The plot thickens. Back at the camp, he sought Khalil, finding him sharpening a knife by the fire. Monsieur Khalil, you know the desert's ways. Have you seen signs of outsiders, smugglers, perhaps, drawn to the tomb's wealth? Khalil's eyes met his, unyielding. The desert hides many things, Monsieur Poirot, but the danger is closer, within the camp. Poirot nodded, filing away the cryptic warning. He retired to his tent, spreading Dr. Marsh's notebook and the scrap of paper before him. The hieroglyphs spoke of a poisoned ritual, the camp of sabotage and murder. The parallels were too neat, the timing too precise. Someone was orchestrating fear, using the Pharaohs' legend to mask their crimes. As he pondered, a faint whisper drifted from the direction of the tomb, a low, rhythmic sound like a chant. Poirot stepped outside, his torch cutting through the darkness. The sound ceased, replaced by the crunch of footsteps retreating into the night. He smiled grimly. The whispers of the past, they guide us to the present. Hercule Poirot listens, and he will uncover the truth. The desert stretched vast and silent, but the camp was a cauldron of secrets, and Poirot knew the next strike of vengeance was not far off. Chapter 6. Allies and Adversaries. The midday sun scorched the Valley of the Kings, its heat a relentless reminder of the desert's unforgiving nature. Hercule Poirot stood at the camp's edge, his linen suit pristine despite the dust, his eyes scanning the horizon. The murder of Dr. Evelyn Marsh and the near-fatal attack on Charles Langley had fractured the expedition's fragile unity, and whispers of the Pharaoh's curse now mingled with accusations among the team. Poirot's little grey cells hummed, piecing together clues, the poisoned vial, the sabotaged beam, the cryptic note signed C.L. The tomb of Amenhotep IV held secrets, but so did the living. A familiar voice broke his reverie. "Poirot, old chap, what's this about curses and corpses?" Captain Arthur Hastings, Poirot's loyal friend, strode into the camp, his face flushed from travel, but his grin undimmed. His arrival, unannounced, was a welcome surprise. "Mon ami Hastings," Poirot exclaimed, his moustache twitching with delight. "You appear like an oasis in this desert of deceit. But how did you come to be here?" Hastings adjusted his hat, grinning. "Got a telegram from Harrington, begging for assistance. Said you were tangled in a mess. Couldn't resist, naturally." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Bien, your timing is impeccable. Come, we have much to discuss." As they walked to Poirot's tent, Hastings marvelled at the dig site, his boyish enthusiasm a stark contrast to the camp's grim mood. "Egypt, Poirot! Tombs, treasures, it's like a novel, but this curse business sounds dodgy." "Non, Hastings," Poirot said, his voice firm. "No curse, only cunning. Dr. Marsh was poisoned, Langley nearly crushed. Someone uses the Pharaoh's legend to mask their crimes." Inside the tent, Poirot shared his findings. The vial of poison, the cut ropes, Dr. Marsh's notes about a hidden chamber, and the note signed C.L. Hastings whistled. "Sounds like a proper plot. This C.L. Langley, you think?" "Perhaps," Poirot replied, "but initials are a flimsy thread. We must test the waters." The camp buzzed with tension as the team gathered for lunch under the canvas canopy. Clara Wentworth sat close to Langley, her auburn hair catching the light, her eyes darting nervously. Sir Reginald Harrington paced, his face etched with worry. Ahmed Khalil, ever watchful, carved a piece of wood with a small knife, his silence louder than words. Poirot seized the moment. "Mes amis, we cannot work in fear, but to uncover the truth, I propose a small experiment. Tonight, we shall guard the tomb's entrance. Volunteers, s'il vous plaît?" Clara hesitated, then raised her hand. "I'll do it. Evelyn would have wanted us to protect the tomb." Langley scoffed. "Waste of time. I'm not standing in the dark chasing ghosts." Khalil's eyes met Poirot's. "I will join. The desert speaks at night." Harrington nodded reluctantly. "I'll be there, but this feels like tempting fate." Poirot smiled faintly. "Fate, monsieur, is no match for Hercule Poirot." As dusk fell, a fierce sandstorm swept through the valley, the wind howling like a vengeful spirit. The team huddled in their tents, but Poirot and Hastings prepared for the vigil. Poirot handed Hastings a torch. "Observe, mon ami. Our killer may reveal themselves under pressure." At the tomb's entrance, Clara, Khalil, and Harrington joined them, their faces taut in the flickering torchlight. The storm's roar masked lesser sounds, but Poirot's senses were sharp. He positioned the group strategically, ensuring each could see the others. "Stay alert," he said. "The night may bring answers." Hours passed, the storm's fury unrelenting. Clara clutched her shawl, her eyes on Langley's tent in the distance. Khalil stood like a statue, his gaze fixed on the trench. Harrington fidgeted, muttering about the curse. Hastings, ever cheerful, whispered, "Bit like old times, eh, Poirot?" Skulking in the dark, waiting for trouble. Suddenly, a scream pierced the storm. The group spun toward the sound, torches slicing through the swirling sand. A figure staggered from the supply tent. Mustafa, the worker who had fallen ill, now clutching his chest, his face contorted in pain. He collapsed before reaching them, a small dagger protruding from his back. Poirot rushed forward, checking for a pulse. "Mon Dieu, he is gone!" He examined the dagger, its handle carved with a scarab beetle. "This is no accident. The killer grows bold." Clara sobbed, burying her face in her hands. Harrington stammered, "The curse! It's real!" Khalil's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing, his hand resting on his own knife. Poirot stood, his voice cutting through the storm. "No, this is no curse. Mustafa knew something, and someone silenced him. We must search the tent." Inside the supply tent, Poirot found a crate of artifacts, one amulet missing its scarab emblem, matching the dagger's design. A ledger, hidden beneath, listed artifact sales to an unknown buyer. Initialed C.L. Hastings raised an eyebrow. "Langley again?" "Or a clever deception," Poirot replied. He turned to Clara, noting her tear-streaked face. "Mademoiselle, you and Mustafa spoke often. Did he share any secrets?" Clara hesitated. He said he saw someone moving artifacts at night. He wouldn't say who, but he was scared." Poirot's gaze shifted to Khalil. "And you, monsieur? You patrol the camp. Did you see Mustafa tonight?" Khalil's voice was steady. "I saw him near the tent before the storm. He was agitated, speaking of betrayal." The storm subsided, leaving an eerie calm. Poirot gathered the group, his eyes sharp. "Mes amis, our killer uses the storm and the curse to hide their work, but Hercule Poirot sees through the shadows. Tomorrow we dig deeper, into the tomb and into your secrets." As the team dispersed, Hastings clapped Poirot's shoulder. "You've stirred the pot, old boy. Think the killer will slip up?" Poirot's smile was grim. "Mon ami, they already have. The dagger, the ledger, these are threads in a web. Hercule Poirot will untangle it." The night settled over the camp, the stars cold and distant. Poirot stood alone, the scarab dagger in his hand, its weight a reminder of the growing danger. Allies and adversaries blurred in the desert's shadows, and he knew the next strike was imminent. Chapter 7. The curse's deepening grip. The desert dawn painted the Valley of the Kings in hues of amber. but the expedition camp was cloaked in a pall of fear. The brutal murder of Mustapha, stabbed with a scarab-carved dagger, had shattered any lingering pretense of safety. Hercule Poirot stood near the tomb's entrance, his pristine suit a stark contrast to the dust and chaos around him. Captain Hastings, ever loyal, hovered nearby, his face grim as he surveyed the dwindling number of workers, many of whom had fled, whispering of the Pharaoh's vengeance. "Mon ami," Poirot said, his voice low, "the killer grows reckless. Mustapha's death was no random act. He knew something, and someone ensured his silence." Hastings nodded, clutching his torch. "That dagger, Poirot. Same scarab as the amulet. Someone's playing a dangerous game." "Oui, a game of shadows," Poirot replied, his grey eyes scanning the camp. "But Hercule Poirot plays to win." The morning brought news from the Egyptian authorities. The camp was now under quarantine. No one permitted to leave until the murders were resolved. Sir Reginald Harrington, his face haggard, gathered the team in the mess tent, his hands trembling as he spoke. "This is a disaster. 2 deaths, and now we're trapped here. Monsieur Poirot, you must find the culprit." Poirot's moustache twitched. "Calmez-vous, Sir Reginald. The truth is close, but it requires patience and honesty." Clara Wentworth, her auburn hair tied back, sat pale and silent, her sketchbook untouched. Charles Langley, his arm still bandaged from the beam incident, glowered. "This is costing me a fortune. If we don't finish the dig soon, my investors will pull out." Ahmed Khalil, sharpening his knife with slow precision, spoke softly. "The tomb does not yield its secrets easily. Perhaps it demands a price." Poirot's gaze sharpened. "A price, monsieur? Or does someone among us demand it?" He produced Doctor Marsh's notebook and the ledger found in the supply tent, laying them on the table. Dr. Marsh wrote of a hidden chamber and a ritual of vengeance. The ledger lists artifact sales. Initialed C.L. Monsieur et Mesdames. Someone here trades in secrets, and death. Langley's face reddened. "Are you accusing me? Those initials could mean anything." Clara's voice was barely a whisper. Evelyn suspected the artifacts were being smuggled. She said the ledger wasn't Langley's handwriting. Poirot nodded, noting Langley's flinch. Interessant. And Mustapha, he saw something, perhaps the smuggler's identity. We must examine the bodies, the poison, the dagger. They tell a story. The camp doctor, a wiry man named Doctor Farouk, had conducted autopsies in a makeshift tent. Poirot and Hastings joined him, the air heavy with the scent of antiseptic. Dr. Farouk pointed to Dr. Marsh's report. "Cyanide, likely administered in her tea. The powder on her hands was a red herring. Common dust, not poison. And Mustapha?" Poirot asked, examining the dagger's scarab design. "Stabbed in the back, died instantly," Dr. Farouk said. "No poison, but the blade was coated with a resin, ancient, possibly from the tomb." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Tiens, a modern murder with an ancient touch. The killer wishes us to believe in the curse." Back at the camp, Poirot requested Dr. Marsh's translations of the tomb's texts, now stored in Harrington's tent. The hieroglyphs detailed a ritual where betrayers were lured with poisoned offerings, their deaths disguised as divine wrath. "The Pharaoh's vengeance," Poirot mused, "is a blueprint for our killer. But why? Greed for the tomb's treasures? Or a deeper motive?" Harrington, overhearing, stammered, "Monsieur Poirot, I swear I've no part in this, but—" Evelyn mentioned a dispute over the expedition's funding. She thought someone was siphoning profits. Poirot's gaze flicked to Langley, who bristled. "Don't look at me. I'm the one keeping this dig afloat." Clara spoke up, her voice trembling. Evelyn also mentioned a family connection. Something about her research linking the tomb to a modern inheritance. She wouldn't say more. Mon Dieu, Poirot said, his mind racing. An inheritance, a motive as old as the pyramids. We must watch closely tonight. As night fell, the camp settled into an uneasy vigil. Poirot organized a watch, pairing himself with Khalil, Hastings with Clara, and Harrington with Langley. The desert was silent, save for the occasional howl of a jackal. Poirot and Khalil patrolled the tomb's entrance, the torchlight casting eerie shadows on the hieroglyphs. Monsieur Khalil, Poirot said, you speak little, but you see much. Have you suspicions? Khalil's eyes were like polished obsidian. The desert reveals truth in time, but trust no one, Monsieur Poirot, not even your friends. Before Poirot could probe further, a crash echoed from the supply tent. They rushed over, finding a crate overturned, its contents, golden amulets and pottery, scattered. Hastings and Clara arrived breathless. We heard it from our post, Hastings said. Someone was here. Poirot examined the scene, noting a footprint in the dust. Too large for Clara, too small for Langley. Curieux, the killer moves under our noses. Harrington and Langley joined them, the latter clutching his bandaged arm. This is sabotage, Langley snapped. Someone's trying to ruin us. Poirot's voice was sharp. Or to distract us, monsieur. The ledger, the artifacts, the deaths, they point to a plan. But whose? He staged a test, announcing to the group that he'd found a key to the hidden chamber in Dr. Marsh's notes. Tomorrow we open it, he declared, watching their faces. Clara's eyes widened, Langley's jaw tightened, and Harrington's hands shook. Khalil remained impassive, but his knife gleamed in the firelight. As the team dispersed, Poirot whispered to Hastings, Mon ami, the killer is nervous. My lie about the key will draw them out. Watch Clara. She knows more than she says. The night deepened, the stars cold above the desert. Poirot sat in his tent, the ledger and dagger before him, their scarab symbols a haunting echo of the tomb's warnings. The curse's grip tightened, but Poirot knew it was no ancient spirit at work, only a human heart, dark with vengeance, waiting to strike again. Chapter 8. Hidden Chambers of Deceit. The relentless sun beat down on the Valley of the Kings, its heat a stark contrast to the chill of suspicion that gripped the expedition camp. Hercule Poirot stood before the tomb of Pharaoh Amenhotep IV, his sharp eyes fixed on the sun disk panel described in Dr. Evelyn Marsh's notes. The murders of Dr. Marsh and Mustafa, coupled with the attack on Charles Langley, had tightened the noose of fear around the team. Poirot's calculated lie about finding a key to a hidden chamber had stirred the pot, and he sensed the killer's next move was imminent. Captain Hastings joined him, mopping his brow. Poirot, this place feels like a pressure cooker. Your trap's set, but what if the killer strikes again before we spring it? Mon ami, Poirot replied, his moustache twitching. The killer is restless. They will act, and Hercule Poirot will be ready. Inside the tomb, the air was cool and heavy, the walls alive with hieroglyphs depicting betrayal and divine wrath. Poirot traced the sun disk panel, its edges worn but intact. A faint seam suggested a hidden mechanism, but it resisted his probing. Tiens, he murmured, Dr. Marsh was close to unlocking this secret, perhaps too close. Sir Reginald Harrington approached, his face etched with exhaustion. Monsieur Poirot, the workers are on edge. They say the tomb's spirit demands more blood. We can't continue like this. Poirot's gaze was piercing. Monsieur, spirits do not wield daggers or poison tea, but someone does, and they hide behind this curse. Clara Wentworth, her auburn hair tied back, lingered nearby, sketching the hieroglyphs with trembling hands. Charles Langley, his arms still bandaged, hovered by a crate of artifacts, his eyes darting nervously. Ahmed Khalil stood at the chamber's edge, his silence as impenetrable as the desert night. Poirot gathered the team, holding up Dr. Marsh's notebook. Mes amis, docteur. Marsh believed a hidden chamber lies behind this panel. Today, we explore deeper. But first, I must know, who was with her the night she died? Clara's voice wavered. I told you. I saw her heading to the tomb. She was alone. Langley scoffed. You're wasting time, Poirot. There's no chamber, just Marsh's obsession. Khalil's eyes met Poirot's. The tomb keeps its secrets well, but not all are stone. As the team prepared to probe the panel, a worker shouted from a side passage, Monsieur Poirot, we've found something. Poirot hurried over, finding a narrow crevice revealed by a shifted slab. Inside gleamed a small cache of artifacts, golden amulets, a jeweled scarab, and a clay tablet. But what caught Poirot's eye was a modern envelope tucked among them, sealed with a wax scarab stamp. He opened it carefully, revealing a forged shipping manifest listing artifacts, bound for a European buyer. Initialed C.L. Mon Dieu, Poirot said. A smuggling operation, hidden in plain sight. Harrington gasped. Smuggling? But who? Before he could finish, a scream echoed through the tomb. Clara bolted toward the sound, Poirot and Hastings close behind. In a deeper passage, they found a worker. Ali slumped against the wall, his eyes wide with terror, a gash on his arm. A shadow, he gasped in Arabic. It came at me with a blade. Poirot examined the wound, shallow but deliberate. Curio, the killer seeks to silence witnesses. He scanned the passage, noting scuff marks in the dust, fresh, leading to a dead end. They fled, but not far. Khalil appeared, his knife sheathed, but his posture tense. The passages twist like a serpent. They could be anywhere. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Non, monsieur. They are close, and they panic. He turned to the team, his voice sharp. Return to the camp. This tomb is no place for chaos. Back at the camp, Poirot studied the forged manifest. The handwriting matched neither Langley's nor Clara's, but the initial CL pointed to a deliberate frame or a coincidence. He summoned Langley, whose face was a mask of indignation. Monsieur Langley, these artifacts were meant for illicit sale. Your initials appear. Explain. Langley's jaw tightened. I told you, it's not me. Someone's setting me up, probably Marsh, before she died. Clara, overhearing, snapped. Evelyn would never smuggle. She cared about history, not money. Poirot nodded, filing away their reactions. He then sought Khalil, finding him by the fire, carving a wooden scarab. Monsieur Khalil, you know these passages. Could someone hide in the tomb undetected? Khalil's eyes were steady. The tomb has many shadows, Monsieur Poirot, but I saw no one enter after Ali's attack. Poirot's mind raced. The smuggling, the attacks, the murders, all pointed to a calculated plan. He recalled Doctor Marsh's mention of an inheritance, hinted at by Clara. Mon ami, he whispered to Hastings, we must dig into the team's pasts. An inheritance may be the key. That night, Poirot staged another vigil, this time inside the tomb. He positioned Hastings and Khalil near the sun disk panel, while he and Clara patrolled the outer chamber. The air was thick with tension, the torchlight casting eerie shadows. Suddenly, a grinding noise echoed, a stone shifting. Poirot spun, his torch illuminating the sun disk panel as it slid open, revealing a narrow passage. Before he could act, a figure darted from the shadows, shoving Clara aside and vanishing into the passage. Poirot gave chase, his nimble steps defying his age. The passage twisted, ending in a small chamber filled with crates, more artifacts, some modern replicas. The figure was gone, but a dropped glove lay in the dust, monogrammed with C.L. Dians. Poirot panted, pocketing the glove. The killer grows careless. Hastings caught up, breathless. "Did you see them, Poirot?" "No, but they leave their mark," Poirot said, holding up the glove. "This chamber, it is the heart of the smuggling, and perhaps the motive for murder." Back at the camp, Poirot confronted the team, the glove in hand. "Mes amis, the hidden chamber is real, and it hides a crime. This glove, whose is it?" Langley paled, but his voice was steady. "Not mine. Check my tent. I've no such glove." Clara's eyes widened. "It could be anyone's, but why frame Charles?" Harrington stammered. "This is madness. We're all in danger." Poirot's smile was grim. "Oui, but the danger is human. The Pharaoh's curse is a mask, and Hercule Poirot will unmask the one behind it." As the team dispersed, the desert night closed in, the tomb's secrets pulsing like a heartbeat. Poirot knew the killer was cornered, and the next move would be their last. Chapter 9. The Pharaoh's Final Reckoning. The air in the tomb of Amenhotep IV was thick with dust and tension, the flickering torchlight casting long shadows across the hieroglyph-covered walls. Hercule Poirot stood in the antechamber, his impeccable suit slightly rumpled from the chase through the hidden passage the previous night. The discovery of the smuggling cache, the monogrammed glove, and the mounting deaths had brought the expedition to a breaking point. Captain Hastings, his face etched with worry, stood beside him, clutching a torch. The team, Sir Reginald Harrington, Clara Wentworth, Charles Langley, and Ahmed Khalil, gathered uneasily, their eyes darting between Poirot and the sealed sarcophagus at the chamber's centre. "Mes amis," Poirot began, his voice steady but commanding, "the time for secrets is over. Dr. Marsh, Mustapha, the attacks on Monsieur Langley and Ali, these are not the work of a Pharaoh's curse, but of a human hand cunning and ruthless. Tonight, Hercule Poirot will reveal the killer." Harrington mopped his brow, his voice trembling. "Monsieur Poirot, please, end this nightmare." Clara's auburn hair gleamed in the torchlight, her hands clutching her sketchbook. "You know who did it? How?" Langley, his bandaged arm stiff, scoffed. "This is theatrics, Poirot. You've got nothing but guesses." Khalil's dark eyes were unreadable, his knife sheathed at his belt. "The desert speaks, Monsieur Poirot. What does it say?" Poirot's moustache twitched. "It speaks of betrayal, monsieur, as old as Amenhotep's time and as fresh as today." He paced before the sarcophagus, his grey cells aligning the puzzle's pieces. The poisoned vial, the scarab dagger, the forged manifest, the glove marked CL. "Écoutez," he continued, "Dr. Marsh uncovered a hidden chamber, a smuggling operation, and a link to an inheritance. She was poisoned to silence her. Mustapha saw the smuggler and was stabbed. The beam that nearly killed Monsieur Langley was sabotage, meant to warn or eliminate. The glove, the initials CL, these were meant to point to Monsieur Langley, but they are a misdirection." Langley's face reddened. "I told you, it's not me. Someone's framing me." Poirot raised a hand. "Patience, monsieur. Let us reconstruct. The ledger listed artifact sales, but the handwriting was not yours. The glove, too large for your hand, was planted. But who benefits from these crimes?" He turned to Clara, his eyes softening. "Mademoiselle Wentworth, you spoke of Dr. Marsh's suspicion, an inheritance tied to the tomb. You knew more, no?" Clara's eyes widened, her voice faltering. Evelyn said the tomb's artifacts could prove a family claim to an estate. She thought someone was after it. Poirot nodded, then faced Harrington. Sir Reginald, you invited me here, fearing a curse. But your fear was of exposure, oui? You knew of the smuggling, and Dr. Marsh's discovery threatened your role. Harrington stammered, I only wanted the dig to succeed. I didn't kill anyone. Poirot's gaze shifted to Khalil. And you, monsieur, who see all in the desert's shadows. You patrolled the camp, yet saw nothing when Mustafa died. Why? Khalil's expression remained impassive. I see what the desert allows. The guilty hide well. Poirot smiled grimly. No, they hide poorly. The killer is among us, and their motive is clear: greed and vengeance, cloaked in the Pharaoh's curse. He produced the scarab dagger, its blade glinting. This was used to kill Mustafa, its resin from the tomb. A clever touch. But the smuggling manifest, the hidden chamber, these point to one who knows the tomb's secrets intimately. He paused, letting the tension build. Mes amis, the killer is Sir Reginald Harrington. Harrington gasped, stumbling back. Preposterous! I'm no murderer! Poirot's voice was relentless. You orchestrated the smuggling, Sir Reginald, selling artifacts to fund your debts. Dr. Marsh discovered your scheme and the hidden chamber, threatening to expose you. You poisoned her tea with cyanide, dusting her hands with tomb powder to suggest a curse. Mustafa saw you moving artifacts and was silenced with the dagger. The beam on Langley was a warning. He was asking too many questions about costs. Clara cried out, but the glove, CL, that's not Reginald. Poirot nodded. Exactement. The glove was a clumsy attempt to frame Monsieur Langley, but it was too large, and the handwriting on the manifest was yours, Sir Reginald, not his. And there is more. An accomplice. He turned to Khalil, whose hand twitched toward his knife. Monsieur Khalil, you aided Harrington, no? You knew the tomb's passages, helped hide the smuggled artifacts, and kept silent about his movements. Your loyalty was bought, but your heart wavered, hence your cryptic warnings to me. Khalil's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. Harrington shouted, Lies! You've no proof! Poirot produced the forged manifest, and a letter from Harrington's tent, their handwriting identical. The proof, monsieur, is in your hand, and the resin on the dagger. Dr. Farouk confirmed it, matches a sample you handled in the tomb. Harrington lunged for the passage, but Hastings tackled him, pinning him to the ground. Khalil drew his knife, but Poirot's voice stopped him. No, monsieur, the game is over. The authorities will decide your fate. Clara sobbed, clutching her sketchbook. Langley, pale, muttered, I knew he was desperate, but murder? Poirot's eyes softened. Mes amis, greed and fear twist the heart. Harrington used the curse to mask his crimes, but Hercule Poirot sees through such veils. As the authorities, alerted by a runner, arrived to take Harrington and Khalil into custody, the tomb's oppressive air seemed to lift. The sarcophagus loomed silently, its secrets safe once more. Poirot dusted his hands, his work complete. Mon ami, Hastings said, grinning. You've done it again, but that was a close one. Poirot's moustache twitched. Oui, Hastings, but the little grey cells, they never fail. As the team dispersed, the desert night settled over the tomb, its whispers stilled. The Pharaoh's vengeance was no more, just a human plot, unravelled by Poirot's genius. Chapter 10. Echoes of Resolution. The dawn broke over the Valley of the Kings, painting the cliffs in hues of gold and rose, as if the desert itself sighed in relief. The expedition camp, once a crucible of fear and suspicion, buzzed with a quieter energy. Sir Reginald Harrington and Ahmed Khalil had been taken away by the Egyptian authorities, their roles in the smuggling ring and murders exposed by Hercule Poirot's relentless, Deductions. The tomb of Pharaoh Amenhotep IV stood silent, its secrets now guarded by justice rather than a curse. Poirot, his suit impeccable despite the desert's toll, stood at the camp's edge, gazing at the Nile's distant shimmer. Captain Hastings joined him, his face bright with admiration. "By Jove, Poirot," Hastings said, clapping his friend's shoulder, "you've done it again, unravelled a plot as twisted as those tomb passages. But I'll admit, I half believed that curse nonsense for a moment." Poirot's moustache twitched with a faint smile. "Mon ami, the human heart weaves curses far more dangerous than any pharaoh's spell. Greed, betrayal, these are the true shadows over the sands." The remaining team members, Clara Wentworth and Charles Langley, gathered their belongings, preparing to depart. Clara, her auburn hair catching the morning light, approached Poirot, her sketchbook tucked under her arm. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice soft but steady, "thank you. I was so scared, but you saw through it all. Evelyn, she'd be grateful." Poirot bowed slightly. "Mademoiselle, Dr. Marsh sought truth, and truth has been served. Her work, it will endure." Langley, his arm still bandaged, nodded gruffly. "Didn't think you'd pull it off, Poirot. I was wrong about you, and about Harrington. He played us all." "Oui, monsieur," Poirot replied, his eyes sharp. "But you too played a part, non? Your obsession with profit blinded you to Harrington's schemes. Next time, trust the little grey cells." Langley flushed but said nothing, turning to oversee the packing of artifacts for transport to Cairo's museum. The Egyptian authorities had taken charge, ensuring the tomb's treasures would be preserved, not sold to the highest bidder. The hidden chamber, with its smuggled goods, was sealed pending further investigation, its contents catalogued under official supervision. Poirot and Hastings strolled toward the Nile, where a steamer awaited to carry them back to Cairo. The desert stretched vast and silent, its mysteries no longer menacing. Poirot paused, his gaze lingering on the tomb's entrance. "Mon ami," he said, "this tomb of Amenhotep IV, it speaks of betrayal, as do the hearts of men. The pharaoh's vengeance was a story, but stories have power, oui?" Hastings grinned. "You're getting philosophical, Poirot. But you're right. Harrington used that story like a weapon. Clever, but not clever enough." Poirot nodded, adjusting his hat against the rising sun. "The human soul, it is a labyrinth more complex than any tomb. Yet Hercule Poirot navigates its passages." As they boarded the steamer, Clara waved from the shore, her sketchbook open to a drawing of the tomb's sun disk. "Monsieur Poirot," she called, "I've sketched this for you, a memento of justice." Poirot accepted the sketch with a bow, his eyes softening. "Merci, mademoiselle. It is a reminder that even in darkness, the truth shines." The steamer's engine hummed, and the Nile's waters carried them away from the Valley of the Kings. Poirot sat on the deck, the sketch in hand, his mind drifting. The case was closed, the killer unmasked, yet a faint unease lingered. The hieroglyphs had hinted at a ritual unfinished, a vengeance incomplete. Was there another secret buried in the sands? A lost artifact, perhaps, or a forgotten name tied to the inheritance doctor? Marsh had uncovered. "Mon Dieu," Poirot murmured, "the desert keeps its secrets well." Hastings, leaning on the rail, chuckled. "What's that, Poirot? Already sniffing out another mystery?" Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "Perhaps, mon ami. The world is full of puzzles, and Hercule Poirot is never idle." As Cairo's minarets came into view, the Nile sparkled under the midday sun. The tomb of Amenhotep IV faded into the distance, its echoes of betrayal and resolution lingering in Poirot's mind. The Pharaoh's legacy was safe, but the desert he knew held stories yet untold, waiting for another day, another mind to unravel them.